Good evening, Danvers. Welcome to the Topics of the Town News, May 23rd, 2019. We have with us today, or we are here today, we have John Toomey, and then we have Matt Duggan.
Good evening.
And I'm Mark Zuberek. So we'll start with a brief description of our mission here. The Topics of the Town News reporting is direct and comprehensive of stories that no one else wants to talk about. We will always report only the truth, sometimes with our opinion included, which is fine. One thing that I like to present first before we get into the show is that we have been advised, and I think everybody in the town pretty much knows, we're going to send our condolences to Richard Trask and his family about the death of his dear wife. She's been, a rock of his existence, and I know I've met her a few times, and she was about our age, my age. I'm sorry, not our age. And the second point of sad news is that we're told today that Martha Swindell, former selectman, a select woman, is dead as of, I think it was last night. We'd like to send our condolences to the Swindell family, and we'll continue reporting on this thing if it's necessary. So sorry to hear our members of the political tenure leave us, but we'll talk to Richard about his endeavors in the future. But this time we're very sorry about the death of his wife. Turning into a news story number one, what we'd like to do is update everyone and possibly do some commentary on the town meeting that transpired this last Monday at 7:30 p.m. at the high school. Selectmen warrant articles and the budget were discussed, and what I like to just introduce one piece that I try to do as a town meeting member, as a Topics of the Town News reporter, and also as a resident and taxpayer in this town. I've asked for an opportunity to stand in front of the town meeting. 121 people showed up out of 145. Basically, there were some unusual vacancies or people that did not come to the meeting. One of them was my precinct member who was elected on a write-in, and he didn't come to the meeting. So, but that's neither here nor there, but I just wanted to point that out. My point of attempting to present a case for the taxpayers of this town is that we need consideration of our taxpayers, because my whole point of the presentation was that we are beginning, or we have in the past, used the taxpayers as a cash cow. Standard amount of taxes, and it increases every year because that's allowed by law. But in addition to that, we are not considering our taxpayers because the warrant articles are funded from the taxes of the previous year. So I was heard out. I was respectfully admitted to say what I wanted to say, but the town meeting didn't do anything about it. The town meeting vote on the budget was always 120, and my one vote was always against every single line item in that budget.
Well, let me just throw this in.
Go ahead.
It doesn't matter what the town meeting does. The individual voter out there isn't getting involved. Why the heck don't you go out and do something? Get involved, find out what's going on, and then you can run the town. Right now it's being run by a small group of people, and they're just spending your money, yours.
I'll expand on that a little bit.
Good.
So you mentioned about a number of town meeting members that were missing. I think there were 20% of all town meeting members did not show up. So we had 80% participation rate for town meeting members. We had a slate for town meeting members that wasn't completely full for all precincts, and then we had less than 5% voter turnout. So it's really a lack of involvement from the populace, from the taxpayers. They're not really involved. Town meeting members didn't really speak up and challenge any of the articles or any of the line items. So it's
Well, it's like we said in our last show, there's total apathy of the voters in this town, which are residents and taxpayers. And I wonder whether everybody is so happy that they're paying so much in taxes and things are running so well. You need to challenge our government. Our government is getting too big in this town. And the problem is that that government is being allowed to run away from us, but at the same time, they're dragging us in because we have to pay more taxes to support that big government.
Yeah, I think, and they maximize the property taxes. The assessments go up every year, and the town bills us right up to the 2.5 max.
Correct.
In terms of increasing. So people tend to complain about the taxes, but without being involved, it's.
But our taxpayers are being abused, and like
But they're allowing it.
But I will use my term again. They're being used as a cash cow.
And they're allowing it.
That's right.
They like
For
it.
11 years, the tax rate has gone up, and it's going to go up the 12th year.
Oh yes.
I mean, I talk to a lot of people who are unhappy with the tax rate, but they don't do anything about it. And unless you do something, you're not going to be able to control it.
That's right.
Yeah, can I just add that there was a gentleman, a French diplomat, who visited the U.S. Back in the mid-1800s. His name was Alexis de Tocqueville. He wrote a book called Democracy in America after traveling around and looking at the different political systems that were in effect then. And just to paraphrase him, he said that in a democracy, we get the government we deserve.
Right.
And I think that's very appropriate for this
That's
situation.
very true, and we deserve what we get. So, one of the things that came out of the town meeting is there's a little bit of discontent in regard to our education. Out of the $121 million budget that we have approved, basically, voted on, about $75 million out of the 121 is slated or dedicated to the education of our children. 75 million out of 121. And that budget includes such items as debt service, the DPW and the town provide services to the education facilities, grounds, and the benefits that we provide to our employees that are at the education department. Essex Tech, $2.5 million. Essex Tech is charging Danvers because we have 150 students enrolled, which I think it's great, but it's $2.5 million. So the thing is, when you add everything up, and debt service for the high school and all the other grammar schools, we are spending $75 million. One thing that was brought up during the discussion at town meeting was Mr. Billings presented a case to reduce the school committee controlled budget of $43 million by $100,000. And this like is deja vu all over again. In 1997 or 98, the same thing happened when I was on the board, and it didn't pass then either. The thing is that the facilities that have been built were supposed to solve all the education issues. But I think what the message has been sent by Mr. Billings and others that did not want to speak at the town meeting is that our education is not as great as we think it is.
Well, that's something that, let's say it's been roaming the world around in the newspapers and so forth, and the various meetings, questions have been raised, but nobody really has studied it. Nobody has really broken it down so we can decide what in the world is going on. As I understand it, the school committee has more or less backed off on how strict the education should be in Danvers.
Right. Or how challenging it should be.
All right, how challenging. But it boils down to, these are your children. Why aren't you getting involved? Why don't you do more to make sure that your children do get as good an education as we can give them? Right now, and I don't know the answers. I don't know most of the questions because there's not that much information around because nobody goes to these meetings.
That's right.
Yeah, but I think the amount of money we spend is comparable to communities that have students who do much better on some of these standardized tests. So it's not that we're not spending enough money. It's just that there's not, I think, the involvement overall, be it from the parents, the school systems, and even the students themselves, right? So students aren't just like a passive player in this process. They
Well, the students will do what they're being challenged to do. And one of the things why did the discussion start from the beginning? This started back in October of last year.
Yeah, I think.
And the thing is, it was been brought up to the school committee, and the school committee, in their wisdom, has basically ignored those comments. And I can't say that for truth, but I can say that the people that have brought up these issues are being totally ignored. And even at the finance committee meeting, you and I were there.
Yes.
And the thing is that the most important thing to our superintendent and to our school committee is emotional education. What are we doing? Having a babysitting, classrooms in there? Because that's what it's coming. The school system has been dumbed down for years, and we need to revitalize it because they need to learn more than what we're teaching them right now.
Yeah, and it's a common knowledge that incoming freshmen, first year of college, they do not pass the minimum level of requirements, and so they end up getting remedial math and remedial English. They can't write. They're being
taught what they should have been taught for the first year. When they got out of high school, they should have had all the experience and the necessary lessons to go into college for the freshman year and pick up where the college starts. But they're not, as you say, they're not
They're not ready.
happening.
Yeah, they're
They're
not
not
ready
ready.
for that. Right. And the thing is that even at the town meeting, I brought up the issue that your students right now who are graduating from high school, and this is from personal experience, and I bet you guys did, the same thing. The first year is spent reviewing and advancing the students to the top of the high school level, where we're paying $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year to refresh the memories, or maybe
Play
start
catch up.
by the high school education, and we're paying an arm and a leg for that. So that's enough about that. I think we're going to continue this discussion when the time comes. We have, John, we have clip number 5, which is in regards to shuttle service on Article 19 that was discussed. And one of the things that was very important is that I don't think many people understood what it was all about.
Well,
So, go ahead, John.
very basically, we as a town are changing. I was born and brought up here. Basically, I started out, this was more or less a farming town. And today, we've become more or less a community town. We're not a Beverly, Salem, or Peabody. We're a place where people live. But people live here and go to work. And as one of the biggest problems I think we have in town is traffic. And it's obvious that, especially in the morning and then in the afternoon, people going to work and coming home from work really tie up the roads. And one of the problems that they have is that there is no public transportation. You can, you can drive, but you can't ride a bus. You very little. There's only a couple of buses going to Liberty Tree Mall. 1 or 2 comes through Danvers Square, and that's about it. Article 19, where they did pass the bit about the creating a start of a program for shuttle service. And they're talking about going from the Beverly commuter rail station to Cummings Center and over to Cherry Hill Industrial Park. It's just a good, let's say, first step. It will help some people there. It also gives us a good education as to what can happen and what can't happen and how things work. It's one of those things that, like everything else, more people should get involved, especially people who could use it. Think of what it would be like if you could just get up in the morning, walk out, get a bus, and drop off right near your workplace. That's a fantastic opportunity. And this is something that the state should be working on. This is, as I say, this is the first step. And very shortly, within a year or 2, we should be making more steps. We should be creating commuter service between the cities surrounding us, Beverly, Salem, Lynn, so forth. There's a great deal of jobs, a great deal of work around us. There's also a great deal of work, Boston, Lynn, Haverhill, you name it. And these are all places that would benefit by shuttle service. That's it.
Matt, you got anything on that?
I think I'm not really sure it's appropriate to have the town fund a shuttle service that basically is rewarding the local businesses out at Cherry Hill Park. I mean, I would think that these businesses, it's in their best interest to make it easier for their employees to get to work without having to drive a car, right? So they can take the train to North Beverly and then, basically a free shuttle out to the work site. And I've worked at locations that have provided those type of shuttles, but I'm not familiar with where the government
It's
should
the
be
private
funding.
sector,
Yeah,
right.
the private sector is the one that's
This is something that we're not talking about just business. We're talking about the average citizen. The average citizen could cut his travel time in a car.
Well, my whole point, and I'm sorry guys, but I will interject here. I have made the pitch and asked the question, where is our MBTA that we're supposed to have in this town, and we are paying from our cherry sheet contributions from the state, automatically taken out for the MBTA. And what do we get? 2 or 3 buses a day during the square, and then all they want to do is go to the shopping center.
Yeah, but it's the same problem we have here in town. People aren't involved.
Right.
When's the last time you talked to Teddy Spiliotis? Most of the people have never talked to Teddy. Teddy's been in there for 20 years.
Yeah.
And he's basically our union, if you want, with the state as far as getting something like shuttle service. It's government not doing their job.
Well, the only reason this article came on board is because the city of Beverly, and in conjunction with Danvers, applied for a state grant
Yes, but why?
because Beverly needed to get their the employees from the railroad commuter lines to Cherry Hill Park, to Cummings Center, to other places. And they have dragged Danvers into it. I think our contribution is $15,000 and Beverly is $25,000. So it's a sample type program,
it's a pilot program.
pilot program that they will try. But the one question I asked during town meeting is, what are we going to be asked to fund next? I mean, this is a private sector contribution that should be done by the employers.
No, you're going to kill business if you do that. You kill business, you're going to lose jobs. That should be a public facility for travel. You can get people around, you can get them to jobs, you can get them to Liberty Tree Mall, you can get them to do everything. But it's the kind of thing that's public service.
That's what it should be.
And I'll admit, the state MBTA is loused up,
No,
and it has been for years.
that's right.
And it's because you're not yakking to Teddy. Go out and tell him what you think.
Well, you know what? Yakking to Teddy will help, but it has to be in such a volume of people that he understands that people are concerned about it.
Yes.
The town manager, in his wisdom, doesn't even know how much we're paying to the MBTA, and we don't demand the service that we should be getting. So we're going around it to a private contribution and government contribution.
Well,
It's got to stop. So, next item on here, and it's mostly Article 7, which John has brought up multiple times, and there's 2 articles in there that went together, and they're to improve the affordability of people staying in their homes and basically making some money to pay the taxes that we charge.
well, this is called the Senior Citizen Work-Off Abatement Program. If you're 60 years old and your income is basically just, if you're single, and your basic income is about 50 grand, or if you're married, about 69 grand, you can get on to a volunteer program to do some work for the town. I mean, it's anything, being a clerk here, or transporting, driving people to the hospital, or anything that you can volunteer for. And town meeting just passed a new limit. It's $1,500 you get credit for. I mean, hey, that's not bad.
And the program has been in existence for many years now.
Yes, but it's not very well known.
Right.
And this is what people should be doing, is looking at things like this. Here's a way to save yourself some money. And basically, it's a great way of helping other people. That's one thing. Or helping the town to save some money if you volunteer to fill in someplace on some program or work. Try it. Go down to the town hall. The town hall has a nice brochure, and it has all the information, and all you have to do is ask.
What's available and how you can apply for it.
Yes.
That's right. Thank you, John. I think that's pretty much the major warrant articles. What I'd like to move on to is story number 2, which is the Selectmen's meeting review. And one of the first things, you want to address that?
Sure. So Tuesday night's meeting, there's a new chair, Dan Bennett, who's going to be leading the board for the next year. It's the same members from last year, so really nothing new in terms of the status quo. We can expect more or less the same approach to running the town from a selectman's perspective, I think.
That's right. Well, we'll see. We're going to have to report on that on a more deliberate manner to show what they're doing.
Well, there no new candidates for the election, so I guess everyone is happy with the current slate.
Well, what we need to do is we need to encourage the general public and some people that are interested in running for office. Maybe this is the time to start addressing the plan, when you should be starting it, what kind of steps you need to take to get elected. And John and I can provide that information. We've done it in the past.
Well, it's always good to have a mix of especially different perspectives.
Correct.
You have the same people serving year over year. You kind of, I don't want to say you get into a kind of a stagnant, stale way. I think even if people aren't confident they could actually win, just having their participation and their viewpoints, I think, adds to a better product.
And we have tried to get a debate or a presentation of the selectmen's positions and the school committee positions during this last season. Nobody had any interest.
They didn't even.
So
no
we canceled it.
No signs or anything.
Well,
Right.
nobody's
Nothing.
asking many questions, so why, they
All
just
right.
have no interest in answering
and
any questions.
In a democracy, we get the government we deserve.
Right. One thing that I like to report at this time, John, do you have anything else on the selectmen's meeting? Or?
No.
Okay. I have one line item here that I like to report on, and being a pest and persistent attendee to the municipal light board meetings, I have been very interested in what's going on, and I did not bring the camera this week. It was on May 21st. I found out about it the morning of May 21st, and the meeting is at 8:30 in the morning. So, but they sort of even asked me, "Where's your camera?" So I think they like it. But the thing is that one thing I like to report, the status quo on the financials are still, we have over $20 million sitting in the bank doing nothing. That is the ratepayers' money, and the rates, I have been asking to reduce the rates and reduce the, there's two types of rates. There's two components to each rate. And there's the base rate, which is, one piece of it, and it's about 9 cents a kilowatt. And there's the other piece, which is for the fuel adjustment and, facilities management and all that. That I have indications, and I don't want to spill the beans altogether, but I was the only one there from the public. But they are planning to reduce FP&L rates.
That's great news.
I can't tell you how much yet,
Just
but
in time for AC season.
it is.
Define reduce.
That's why I can't tell you yet.
Okay.
I
have to watch
sort
your
of,
bill.
I was told, I know what the rate is. I know what they're going to do, but it's sort of tentative at the moment. I will go to the next meeting, and that's when I'm going to be able to tell you in June. So there is a God someplace. So the ratepayers may get a reduction right now. Okay, so let's move on. Other updates. And I'm going to pick on my favorite subjects. The DPW garage
It's Groundhog Day.
on Canal
Over
Street.
and over.
It's over and over again. And we were told at the selectmen's meeting that there will be a reduction in the request of the increase from 475 down to something. Well, I guess the town manager didn't like my comments, and they stuck with the $475,000 warrant article, and it passed. Everything passed.
I think it went out to bid.
They got
I
the
regret
bids
not
on
getting
the
up and
9th.
asking about if the bid was one of the lower ones.
I know,
because
I
it-
did.
So
And they wouldn't tell
we'll
me.
see if they come back for another request next year.
Okay, water and sewer increase. Starting in June, there's a meeting scheduled for increasing the water and sewer rate. This is the annual adjustment. And after all of the warrant articles and all of the spending that water and sewer is doing, and the town is spending, they're not spending the free cash. They're spending your rates. Whatever you pay, that's what's being invested into the company.
That's how they run the town.
That's right. They don't spend their own money.
They
They'll-
get excess income, and that's what they use
Well,
to run it.
the one thing that you have to understand is that it's coming. It's going to be in the proximity of 10% increase. And 10%, last year the increase was 1.25%. And that was after, consistent badgering about the rates because they don't need it.
Well, they need to make capital improvements, so water mains and fish,
They
Frost
got
Fish
millions
Brook.
of dollars in the bank and free cash.
That's right.
I think
Yeah,
they-
but they won't use the free cash because that's tax supported. This is rate supported, and what's going to happen is we're going to get dumped on by the water and sewer commissioners to spend this money. I think June 18th is the meeting at the electric department building, Borough Street, 2
Two
Borough
boroughs,
Street.
yep.
June 18th at 5:30 in the afternoon. I think we need to make sure that people attend this meeting. Go en masse and sit in that conference room and listen and look them in the eye. How can you increase this?
Ask for justification.
Right.
When is it?
June, I will repeat it again, but I believe it's June 18th and I can double check it for you right now. That's electric. I think it's in June. It's in June 18th.
Okay,
But I will
we'll find out.
I will find out definitely. But we need to get it people out there. Next item is plastic bags. Clip number 3 and 4. So if we can do clip number 3. There
Okay,
you go,
here's the
John.
reusable shopping bags. June 1st, there will no longer be free bags at the checkouts. You're either going to be charged or you have to use your own. And here's a good example of some of the bags you can buy to get them. And
At the elections, John, there were bags handed out by East
Boston
Boston
Savings Bank.
Savings Bank.
Yep.
However, one of the things that I noticed, they were plastic. So
yes, but it's
They're
reusable.
recycled plastic,
Recycled.
and you can wash them.
recycled.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we should be able to wash those and,
Yeah.
and clean them up.
Yeah, because cloth ones get really gnarly.
That's right. Okay.
And this is at one of the biggest stores in town. Pretty soon there should be a little sign.
Yeah, and if you look
Yeah.
around, you can often find them for
But
free if you go to different
You're
events.
going to be, there we are. When you go and you make your purchases and they put them in a bag, they're going to charge you for the bag. And this starts June 1st. Now this is great. We're going to eliminate some of the plastic. We're going to try and solve some of the major problems that the world has. God help us. But
David, do clip 4, please.
It'll make you feel better about yourself and those around you.
Oh,
no,
that's
clip 4
clip 4. You got 3?
or 3. Try 3. No,
Okay, we got the
Okay.
same,
Yeah,
same
but-
thing. That's fine. Thank you.
just
It's good for society to get away from single-use plastic, so it's all good.
All right.
yes, but let's say it's a very small part of the big problem.
It's a start.
Yeah, you can cut the clip.
All right.
Thank you
What's
very much,
next?
David. Next story, what we have here is just a other news updates, which are basically for planning department updates, current status of meetings for second phase of the Maple Street overlay, parking and traffic issues, traffic study that is available, open space issues. So, Matt, take it away.
Sure. So, as you're aware, the planning department or the land use department is working on the Maple Street overlay. They're going to be having workshops, a few over the summer, but really not getting back into full swing until this fall for a preparation for special town meeting in December. And that's to convert what is currently a C and C1A commercial zoning that's going to be have an overlay that allows residential on the upper floors. There is a project about to begin at 44 Maple Street above on the second. They're going to add a third floor and build 10 single unit apartments,
Single bedroom?
single bedroom apartments above that. So this was in advance of this overlay. It's kind of during the process, it incorporated some of the new requirements that'll be in place, including setbacks. So as you go to the second floor and to the third floor, it won't just be a vertical wall. There'll be some setbacks and some architectural details that'll dress it up so you don't have this canyon effect.
Is there any parking involved?
There's not really much parking behind there. It's kind of maybe just enough if it's not designated for the commercial stores on the first floor. But part of the of this overlay incorporates a parking study that was done maybe close to 2 years ago by Nelson Nygaard, and what they did was they kind of did an analysis of all the available parking in the downtown area, and it's about 1,700 parking spaces. So when people say they can't find any place to park, it's typically because they're trying to park right in front of the store that they're going to patronize. And if they went further out a little bit and were willing to walk, they would have, the study has found that there's sufficient parking available. So that's, we'll be discussing more as
Well, let me just throw
summer
in
goes.
that I go for a walk every morning, and in good weather I usually walk around downtown. And I mean, from 7:30, 8 o'clock, 9, 10 o'clock downtown and all around downtown, the streets are loaded with cars. There's
But they're passing through.
no, it's very obvious that, well, yes, there are a lot of passing through, but there are a lot who are passing by looking for parking spaces. It really jams up traffic, because a guy will be running down the road and he sees a guy getting ready to pull out. He stops, lets the guy pulls out, and meanwhile the traffic behind him really backs up. And I see this practically every time I go out and walk. I see this happening. Downtown does not have enough parking for the present situation. And if you add more condos and apartments, you're just adding to the problem. And there's nothing in the zoning that they have put in that actually controls it. And that's going to be a major problem.
All right, well,
That
attend the workshops that the land use department is having, and make sure you, voice
Well,
your
that's-
opinions.
That's a further kick on get involved. You, people who live, I live right near downtown. An awful lot of people I know live right near downtown. Get involved, because if you don't, you're going to find them parking on your street.
And you know what? Many people, including myself, go around the downtown. I go, if I go and visit you, I go the back roads and then come back on High Street, because it is impossible to get through the square.
Well, let me throw in, it just occurred to me, a compliment to the St. Mary's Church. They built that parking lot, and since they built that parking lot, there has been a drastic change in the parking on the streets out there. But it costs the church an awful lot of money.
$2 million.
Well, what's the town going to do?
Well,
Nothing.
we don't want more parking lots, though. We want to encourage people either walking or using their bikes, utilize the rail trail to get into the downtown area.
But what I like to sort of, bring up is, you and I have talked about the traffic or parking study. What I think some of the issues when you get into it is that the parking study basically eliminates some of the parking lot spaces, because they want the town to develop, or developers put up buildings on portions of those parking lots. So I think we need to really, and the town needs to really look at the overall parameters of where the parking is, how we can get people to go there. Because what I'm afraid of is what's going to happen, similar like Beverly, they put meters in everywhere. So that eliminates the parking.
Well,
But it brings in more money.
That's
and
right.
That the town will do.
So maybe the development should include parking on the ground floor, and then have
And
residential units above.
Right,
to
many of
utilize
them
the
do,
space.
right.
Just a parking lot in itself not a good use of land. Same thing with single-story structures.
which is
but-
great, but let's plan on that
Oh, yeah.
instead
That's
of
part of this.
allocating a quarter of a parking lot that we as taxpayers paid for, basically.
Yes.
And now we're gonna donate that land to some developer for peanuts, and he's gonna build a condominium or a multifamily house on it. And have the parking right there, because now the parking is available to him. And that's that's where the planning department really needs to look at of what the heck are we doing. Okay. Open space.
Yeah, and that's also part of the land use department. So there's been an ongoing problem with open space in Danvers. We have some real jewels like Endicott Park and the ball fields that are heavily utilized, but there are a number of smaller areas that don't necessarily get a lot of use or similar use, and there's been some issues with encroachment. So we have clip number 1. This is this location has been a real problem for me personally. When my children were small, I would take them down to this area. So at this street on the paper goes right to the water. This is at Brad Street Avenue at Doty Ave on the Beverly line. And this is sort of like a pocket park. You can see in the middle of the screen here where the abutter in the brown house has built a fence in the middle of the public property. Can you switch to clip 2, please, for a closer perspective? So this fence was built within the past few years where this abutting property owner built a seawall and then increased the size of his yard. And if you look at this now, this narrow pathway appears to be the only piece of public access. So I have personally brought this to the attention of the town and was told maybe I should start a petition, or it's also was told that it's being looked at. I spoke with Daryl Parker, who owns the fish market. He's been very proactive in trying to increase the areas where public have access to the river. As you are aware probably that there's very limited places where you can access the river to like launch a kayak, canoe, maybe do some fishing. So this is a specific example, and there are at least a half a dozen others that I have out at Choate Farm, along the rail trail, where abutters have just taken by adverse possession public property and without any type of repercussions.
So basically, the town property on the right goes all the way over to the...
Yeah, the property line on the right is actually hard up against the side of that house. So if we have an official surveyed plot plan that at Town Hall that was done within the past 10 years because of the construction of the seawall, the Conservation Commission required a surveyed plan. And so this fence doesn't belong there. That's actually on public property. So other towns would never have allowed this, and this fence has been here for a number of years. There's no signage here or any indication that this is public access.
But it is still public land, even though he's built the fence on it.
Yeah, you can't take adverse possession of public property.
Yeah, but the thing is that nobody's protecting it as
Well,
public.
you know,
Well,
I went
what I
to-
don't understand is, you go over and you say to the guy, hey, this guy's got a fence on this public property.
You have,
Why hasn't somebody come out and knocked on
Well,
this guy's
that's the
door and
common
said, hey,
sense.
that fence is not on
Yeah.
your property?
DPW should go down there with a front end loader and knock it down. You know, it's kind of a situation where you know the town just looks the other way, I think, and it's really
yeah, but this is not the only piece of property
No,
that's
there's
in
many.
that
But
situation.
it's one, and they know about it.
Oh, no, they know about a lot more.
Well,
this
why-
is just
Yeah,
one.
this is one example that
Why
I'm
in heck
illustrating.
haven't they been doing
Because
anything?
nobody's been complaining.
Oh, see, that's what I keep talking about,
There
people.
you go, John.
No, even when you complain, it doesn't get you anywhere. I've been complaining about this for almost 2 years.
Well, okay, but if you had 30 or 40 people who are joining you,
Yeah,
when
we
you
could
went
all go down there together and rip it out. But anyway,
You can't.
just
rip
an
it out.
example of open spaces not being protected by the town, not only for the people that live here, but for future generations that want to use this
Yes.
as a way, as a place to for active and passive recreation.
This is, as you say, this is a good
travesty.
example of where you could
Yeah,
go
I
down
don't
and
want.
put your
I'm all
kayak
done
into
with it.
the
I
water.
just wanted to throw this out here, and
There are many locations like that along the river, and they have been. I've been to a few of them, and the problem is that nobody is making an effort to reclaim that property for the Danvers public
Yeah.
residents.
well, we have an open space committee, and
Yeah.
they should be the stewards of this property.
That's
Yet
right.
when I spoke with them and showed them photos, they said it wasn't their responsibility. So, it's
Well, then we need to
It's
bring
very
the
disturbing for me.
Board of Selectmen on this thing, but they don't want to hear it either
no. They
because
said
it's too
get a
controversial.
petition.
Okay.
Enough of
Last-
that for now, and we'll revisit it at a later
Yes,
time.
we will. I think you need to continue on that.
Thank you.
The last item that I have on this agenda, and we only have 7.5 minutes, but as you remember in the past, in January, I believe that John and I wrote this letter to the Board of Directors of DCAT. And this is our own place. This is DCAT's location, but it's a public location. It's a publicly owned piece of educating materials, whether it's a camera or a book or whatever. Here we are. We made a 5-point proposal, which basically asked for opening up the financial information to the members so they know whether they're volunteering or everybody in this organization right now, except for a few producers, are getting paid. And that's not what it was set up as. So I put this proposal together, and I got a reply, but basically in regard to proposal 1, we agree with you about the importance of an organization's financial need to stay on top of them, which they're doing. The problem is nobody else knows what's going on. The meetings, the monthly meetings of the Board of Directors are closed door. You can call them secret meetings because they don't want anybody from the public in there. And this is a nonprofit organization. The second item that we brought up to their attention is that that nominations for Board of Directors are not open to the general public. They're filtered by a nomination committee, which consists of basically 2 of the board members, and there's no access to anybody else except themselves. So I called it an inside club. Basically, they don't want anybody else to play in their sandbox. The third item is, and the reply was, forget it, this is the rules and this is the way we're going to go. Third item is attendance at the board meeting should be permitted if you have and then if you have personnel issues, there's always the executive session.
So it should be like an open meeting then.
Absolutely.
Like an open meeting
This
law.
is tax money that we're paying as cable customers through Verizon and Comcast to DCAT.
And negotiated by the town
Yeah.
manager.
Absolutely. And for some reason, the nonprofit rules that they've adopted 15 years ago exclude everybody from their meeting. So I was very disappointed, and I asked for a follow-up meeting with them, and I won't go into names, but last Tuesday they had a meeting. I asked for a appearance at their board meeting about a week ago, more than a week ago, and I've been talking to the director here, and everybody's a director in this town.
So the financial statements aren't available
They're
for the public?
available. They're available, but the thing is that they're dated. They're from last year, basically, the end of the year. They're the IRS statements that they have to prepare and submit.
So just standardized.
That's right. So, the other proposals that we have made that were also rejected, DCAT board review and improve the access to the local programming. We have had issues since John Zavalia and I, and even you were involved. We brought up this issue about legal representation, because if we as program producers get sued, the DCAT wanted us to provide legal defense for DCAT as producers. So that was relaxed a little bit. I still don't think it's very clear. That's why I wanted to follow that up. The last proposal is basically my complaint about, we used to be a volunteer organization. We had high school kids. We had some seniors at one time. Now it seems like everybody from that era are gone. We have nobody to support the programming that is happening here. And there are certain programs, there may be 4 or 5 programs that are being done at this facility.
Can I just throw this in?
Sure.
Volunteer, it's fun. You can have your kids, you can have your grandchildren do it. You can do it, regardless of what your age is. They'll show you how, they'll train you, and you can do anything you want, anything you have an interest on. If you want to put on shows, if you want to run shows, if you want to run the equipment, it's all there. I've been doing it for years and having a ball. So try it, volunteer. Back to you.
But my point on this whole proposal was that we reach out to the high school, to Essex Tech, to the senior center. Maybe somebody wants to work with us. But no, what they're doing right now is spending DCAT money that's being generated from the taxes that they collect on funding operations for the government channel, for the education channel. Education has probably 2 programs a week. And those technicians are not volunteers. The government doesn't provide any volunteers. We even have a hard time providing volunteers again. So that's my complaint. We'll follow this up further. We're off the air in about 45 seconds. Next show will be June 5th on a Wednesday this time. And we've already invited, or I have already invited, Jack Billings. And maybe we'll have another guest to sort of offset the education issues that we have going on in town. So thank you, Danvers, for listening to us. And if you have any comments or questions, holler out to any one of us.
Yep.
Or to DCAT.
Monday is Memorial Day. Come on down to the square on Monday for the parade, and thank the veterans for their service. Thank you.
Good night, Danvers.
Good night.
Good night.